All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the last course, we completed the first animation. Now it's time to dive into our second animation and get this almost finished up. And then we've got one more animation we can dive into the sound design. So let's get started on our second animation, or the big one. The second animation I'm going to have today, as you guys noticed, the first animation is a background with two pop-ups like this. The second animation I've got today is this. You must learn a high-quality editing style to stylize your content with. And so with this being said, this one's going to be a bit more complex, okay? Once again, remember guys, if you are able to make your own animation, it is a very good idea to do right now. However, if not, that is totally okay. It's more than okay. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. So for this one, I'm saying you have to learn an editing style to stylize your content. And you can make this pretty easy. You could just show them an editing style. It's literally that simple. You could just show them an editing style, right? Because all that they need to understand is like, you have to learn this kind of editing style so you can learn to stylize your content. You could use icons for this too. There's no problem. However, what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to have the editing style in the middle, and I'm going to have a bunch of other editing styles on the side just to kind of blend it all in together, just to show you guys the power of your focal point. So let's go ahead and get to work on this. The first thing we're going to do is start with the guides. So the plan is to put the editing style in the center here, and on the edges, since these are where the viewer is less focused, I'm going to have some blurred out other editing style pictures so that people can focus on the center one. Let's get started. So real quick, I want to recreate this background, but a darker one. So I'm going to quickly duplicate this by holding down Alt and moving it. And I'm just going to place it right here, like so. And I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to make the fill a darker orange. Okay. I'm going to make the fill like this, and I'm going to play around with the vignette based on that. Maybe just a light vignette like this would do the job, right? So the darker orange doesn't look the best. We're going to go for a bit of a more reddish orange, and then we're just going to go darker, more gray. You don't want to go with extremes, dark gray like that. Maybe a minus 0.5 is good, and then we can play around with this stuff. So move the midpoint down here, and then just kind of feather it out a bit more. Just like that. I think that looks a lot better. And then we could go ahead and dive in. So this looks like a dark brown instead of an orange, but it's okay. Lighten it up a bit more. It's cool. No problem. We can make it a bit more gray. Looks pretty good. Let's go and get started on the editing style. So I'm going to add a picture of the editing style in the center. I've got these inside of my specials folder over here. So you guys are going to have access to all of this stuff inside of the Google Drive, so don't even worry about this. But we've got this editing style. We've got, let's see, we've got, which ones are important? We've got this editing style. We've got this editing style, this editing style, this editing style, this editing style. And then let's just go ahead and import these. All right, awesome. Now the main one I'm going to be putting at the center is this one. It's a Josh Leon editing style. I'm going to go ahead and put this, and I'm going to drag this in. I'm just going to put this, I'm going to scale it down, and I'm just going to place it over here in the middle. Okay, just like this. I'm going to go ahead and put this thing in the center like that. Then I'm going to add in, like, for example, the Isaac editing style. And since this one's going to be on the side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it on the left side like this, right? And I'm just going to put it somewhere where it's off the focus. This is just to set the environment. I'll put it in the top left, like here, right? And then let's get the 3D animated one. Let's get the Houston Cold one, right? Let's add this on top. You guys don't have to do this, but I like this. I think it's a cool idea. Let's place it over here on the right side, right? And then let's get as long as it's outside my main focal point, let's get the by maximize editing style, place it maybe bottom left, like this, right? Devin Jatho, let's go and put this thing, I don't know. Let's make it way smaller and then just put it in the bottom here, like that. And then we've got one more, which is the Imangaji, and let's go ahead and put this thing on the top. Okay, there we go. And now all that we have to do is put this thing at the top. Okay, there we go. And all of these, some of these are constructing. So like the Isaac, for example, is taking up way too much time and too much space in this thing as well. So I'm going to move these a bit out of the way like that, just to make sure that the focus is really on that centerpiece. Move this thing out of the way like so. We have some empty space here, which I don't like. So we're going to move this thing down a bit like that, maybe. And then I'm just going to move the 3D one a bit further out as well. Or maybe we could just make them all a bit smaller. This one can be 80. And this one is good. All right, awesome. And there we go. Now we could see the pure focus in the middle. All right, let's check that out. That looks very awesome. Okay, now we can just resize this one. And you can make it slightly bigger. Okay, and let's go ahead and get to work on the rest of this. To blend these in a bit more, we're going to basically add a Gaussian blur to all of them. And a Gaussian blur is just a kind of blur. If you guys probably all know what a blur is. A Gaussian blur, when you drag this on, let's check out the Isaac picture here. It's down over here. When I increase it, it just blurs out my image like so. That's going to make this a bit blurry. Now, if I wanted the image to be blurred out, I could do this. However, if I wanted the whole thing to be blurred out, I could basically nest it. So here's a quick trick I'm going to teach you guys on nesting. So what I'm going to do is, you guys probably know this, I'm going to basically leave my Josh Leon editing style as it is. I'm going to select the Isaac 3D editing, right? So check this out. Let me quickly explain this to you guys. If I add the Gaussian blur to Isaac and I add it, it's cool, right? But if I nest, like for example, the by maximize, if I nested it first, and then I added the Gaussian blur, and then I do it, you can notice like the edges are blurred out, which looks more realistic like a camera blur. It blurs them out even nicer. So for that reason, I'm going to nest each one or nest them all together and then get to work on our blur. So I'm going to select my Imagaji style, Devin Jathel by Maximize, 3D editing, and Isaac. And if you guys don't understand why this is, just feel free to ask me or John. It's all good. Let's go ahead and apply the Gaussian blur. Not to all of them, sorry. Let's go ahead and right click all of them and then nest it. That's what we want to do. And now we're going to get this nested sequence, which is basically all of these edge pictures. And we're just going to add a Gaussian blur and we're going to bump it up until they are relatively blurred out and just kind of out of focus. Maybe 30, it'd be enough. And then that's pretty cool. I'm going to add a quick zoom over here. So I'm just going to leave the keyframe at 61 and bump this up to like 70 over here and just have a slow pan like this. You must learn a high quality editing style to stylize your content with. I'm also going to make sure that the background also zooms in with it. So I'm going to keyframe the background and also bring this up to 110 like that. You must learn a high quality editing style to stylize your content. That's going to look pretty nice. So this is a nice and simple animation. As you guys, let me quickly just break down everything that we did for any of you guys who are feeling a bit more complex. So what we basically did is we nested all of these different images that are on the edges and blurred them, just because the blur looks nicer when you nest it, because it blurs the edges as well. So instead of just blurring what's inside the image, it actually makes the whole thing blur, which is so much cooler. And then just to kind of bring it a bit more life, we just added a zoom in to the whole thing and just kind of added a slow little subtle zoom in. Now, if you guys want to create a cool parallax effect, you can have the foreground, which is the Josh Leon editing style, zoom in while the background zooms out. So check out what this looks like. So right now they're both zooming in. If I go to my background and I make the last one smaller, so something like 90, it's not going to work. But if I place this keyframe in the beginning, so 110 is where it starts and it ends at 100, so it zooms out. You must learn a high quality editing style to stylize your content effect if you guys want to create it. But I prefer the slow zoom in. I think it looks a lot better. And that's awesome. And then one final thing we could do is maybe just add a bit more effects to our main thing. So we obviously can't add a glow because it's an image. So let's go ahead and add a drop shadow. We can if we nest it, but there's no problem. There's no need doing this. And let's just add some distance and then just kind of soften it off like that. And we're going to be good to go. You must learn a high quality editing style to stylize your content with. And there we go. Amazing. And then there we go. So these are our first two animations. This is our first one here. First, you must learn both Premiere Pro and After Effects. Then you must learn a high quality editing style to stylize your content with. And ladies and gentlemen, that looks amazing. In our third section, in the next course, we're going to be diving into it. If you guys are finding any of this complex, please feel free to send me a message, feel free to send me a DM, just let me know if this is complex so I can keep adding courses to make this more and more simple and more comprehensive. But with this being said, let's dive into our third section over here and dive in and create a very high quality animation from scratch with you guys. I'll see you guys in the next course.